Hello IBHS and welcome to the January 31st rollout of the IBHS weekly update. First thing is that it's the end of the month, so please make sure all paperwork is in. It's really important at the end of the month that we clean up the month before, so any outstanding paperwork, get it in. So anything from this last month or certainly from the months before if you've got that, which hopefully you do not. And turning paperwork in means all corrections are complete, no blank notes, all of your missed hours are documented, and everything is routed. All those things have to be done in order for it to be done. Next thing is performance evaluations and feedback. It's April 1st, I believe, that all performance evaluations are due for all staff. So with that in mind, you'll see those coming out soon, but in the meantime, you will be getting feedback forms for all the staff that you work with or have worked with over the last year. I cannot urge you enough to make sure you do these. So it's not optional. Make sure they're done. Make sure you get them back quickly and make sure that you're honest. Okay, so Brene Brown says when it comes to feedback that clear is kind, unclear is unkind. It seems kind of counterintuitive when you're giving feedback because we often, to be, courteous, we say things like, oh, they're doing okay, but they could be better, very unclear. Say things like, oh, they're really good with kids, or they're really fun, so things like that, or they could be a little bit more fun during session. Those things are really unclear, and they usually just end up making the person wonder. They get mad, they're not sure what you're talking about, and then they just kind of let it go. So it's much more valuable for you to be very clear with your feedback. Give clear examples. Okay, they always bring new items to each session. They're on their feet throughout the session. They haven't turned paperwork in on time, only 3 times out of 5 over the last, 6 weeks. The data tracking hasn't been updated since, November. So things that are really clear, those clear examples are really what we need. And that's hard to hear. I know when you get your performance evaluations or when you hear that feedback, that can be really uncomfortable to hear. You're not supposed to be comfortable all the time. Growth is difficult. Growth kind of hurts sometimes. So we really need to get in the mindset of taking that advice and using it to grow. Training plans, you guys should be receiving your 2025 training plans within the next month or so, and that should be your guide for completing your annual required trainings. If you do have any suggestions for trainings that you would like, please let myself and or your supervisor know. And if you have any just general resources that you found that might be helpful for other people, pass those along as well. Code word for this week is catapult. A couple people asked if you have to send those to me. You don't, but I like it when you do, because then I know that people are listening to these and that I'm not just recording for myself. So code word is catapult. Next thing I want to bring up is Medicaid advocacy. There's been a lot going on in the news recently. There's a lot of confusion, a lot of stuff we don't know. It seems like, Medicaid is our primary source of income for this service. It's what we use to keep the lights on, what we use to pay your paychecks. That's what, most of what we're billing. At this point, funding seems to be continuing. We're pretty confident that seems to be the case. But we do, we do recommend keeping your eyes open, your ears open, and advocating where you can. So there is a link in the training. It's just the ARC, THEARC.org/action. If you go to the arc.org/action, it'll give you a template for sending an email to your representatives that you can just urge them to not only continue Medicaid, but also to build it, because, our funding, if anything, needs to expand, not decrease. Our CEO this week put out a email about our commitment to DEIB. There's been a lot about that in the news as well. We have a committee here at KidsPeace on DEIB, and we would just want to make sure that everyone knows that we continue to be committed to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging here at KidsPeace. That's not going away. That's something that's a core of who we are and what we do. And then our ABA tip of the week is lean into it. So this is a tip that kind of comes from my own kind of brain. This advice has served me well over the years. So when I start to feel, kind of worn out, kind of discouraged, kind of upset about my job, about ABA, but then also about meditation or exercise or friends or things like that, really anything, the inclination in those cases is to run away, to get out of it, do less of it. But what I've really found is that rarely works. That just kind of makes the escape even more valuable. So what I've learned to do is to lean into it. There's another quote that, like if, meditate, for an hour every day, unless you don't have time, in which case meditate for 2 hours a day. That's probably been in the weekly update at some point. It's like my favorite quote. But the things that seem like you don't want to do them are often the things you need to do. So leaning into ABA when I've been discouraged has always been my go-to. Listening to podcasts, doing trainings, talking to other people. Ralph Waldo Emerson says, "My giant follows me wherever I go." So we often try to run away from stuff, but oftentimes that does no good. Take a break when needed, but I've really found that learning more about what we do has always been a great solution. Sorry, this one went a little bit longer. There was a lot to go over, but thank you for everything that everyone does. Whether you work a couple of hours a week or 40 or 50 or whatever it is you're working, what you do changes the world and makes it a better place. So keep up the good work and have a great weekend.